got exposed by the fake progressives. Majority Report called them out. Blue MAGA got exposed by the fake progressives on Majority Report, and they still clowning about force the vote. They won't even drop that BS narrative. They just can't help themselves. Blue MAGA rising up and raising their arms and surrounding Jimmy Dore. They have to protect their cult of personality. He is their blue Trump. Good morning. This is the Debate Me channel, and we got a bit of drama going on the interwebs with the BS commentators, propagandists, the two left-wing factions that, in my view, are really just entertainers and they're not really serious. Now, I will say that Blue MAGA certainly seems to be more serious than the fake progressives, I have to say. I gotta call it like it is. And I'm basing that on the fact that I see Blue MAGA much more engaged with direct action and, you know, ground game, right? Let's actually do something about it rather than just talking and commenting about it. The fake progressives are all actually go and try to do something. All the fake progressives, like, they, rather than supporting something that's, you know, pushing for something that they claim that they want, they will be quiet about it, right? Just to not let it get as much potential success as possible. And then they'll jump in at the end and, you know, you guys, this and Jimmy Dore is involved and this won't work, right? Now is not the time, right? They come in with the full, you know, liberal, quote unquote, liberal talking points. But it's actually a little bit hilarious just watching, you know, Blue MAGA getting exposed with some absolute truth bombs from the Majority Report, who I'm not a fan of. But the truth is the truth, and he spoke the truth about the Blue MAGA, the Jimmy Dore squad, the ironic group of people who definitely can't stand CNN for good reasons. CNN is trash. But yet, they will idolize a man who makes CNN look like real journalism. Compared to Jimmy Dore, CNN is real journalism. Now, considering that in the world of reality, CNN is trash, they are basically Dem media, or capitalist media, to be a little bit, even with their biased nature and dishonest, and they will actually be talking a lot about, you know, misinformation coming from other places, and they'll be correct about that, which is something Blue MAGA won't admit. Blue MAGA will point out that CNN will put out misinformation, MSNBC will put out misinformation. They will distract you with that fact, right? While not wanting to be as, you know, forthcoming about Jimmy Dore and his dishonesty, right? And the dishonesty coming from independent media, right? The dishonesty coming from Fox News, the dishonesty coming from people like Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder, right? Because that's Blue MAGA. Blue MAGA is a cult of sorts, just like MAGA is. right? So they have their little clique, their little tribe, and they have their sort of cult of personality that they rally behind, and no one dare say anything. Like, you can't be in that squad and going in on Jimmy Dore. Now you can do your honorable mentions, and I haven't talked about that in a while. So for those of you guys that are new on the channel, honorable mentions are when 98% of your stuff is going one way, and you need a 2% going the other way, just to pretend like you're objective. And if anyone says you're one-sided, you say, no, 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 I've called that. I've disagreed with Jimmy Dore. Right? That's a classic scam. I don't agree with everything Jimmy Dore says. Right? So you go on MSNBC. I mean, they all do the same thing. All these propagandists, right? Left wing, right wing, centrists, right? The blue MAGA, the MAGA. They all do the same tricks. No one's got anything original to bring to the table, right? You go to MSNBC. If I could actually talk to one of those hosts, and I say, you guys are just pro-Democrat, right? All you do is go after Trump. They will be able to honestly declare, right, that that's not true, because that isn't true. They don't only go after Trump. I'm exaggerating. That's hyperbole, right? So to distract from the fact that they overwhelmingly are focused on Trump and Republicans, they will bring up the honorable mention and say, that's not true. They'll I guess they rebuttal my hyperbole with their own hyperbole by doing the same thing, exaggerating. They'll say, we critique the Democrats all the time. That's a common phrase that these dishonest actors will use. We critique the Democrats all the time. So says MSNBC. Obviously, they don't critique the Democrats all the time. They don't even critique Trump all the time, right? They do a lot of different things. They talk about a lot of different topics. You can't make that kind of absolute statement. What you can say, right, and being honest, is you can say that overwhelming majority of the focus on MSNBC is going after Trump and going after the Republicans, going after the right, overwhelmingly so. You can say that. Now, if they want to be dishonest and distract from that, they will focus on the fact that there's times where they do go after the Democrats, which is true. They've gone after Biden, exposing him as a sexual predator, right? It was on MSNBC where I first came to that conclusion that he basically, well, let me not be too extreme. He is a sexual deviant of sorts, and I believe he has potentially committed sexual-related crimes. That was based on MSNBC pressing him, right? So they can honestly say they've gone after Democrats, but the way that they're lying is, again, exaggerating and saying that's what they would do. That they say, we critique Democrats all the time. They don't critique Democrats all the time. And they also would be lying by, pointing out the fact that they have critiqued Democrats, when what they're being accused of is really not that you never critique the Democrats, right? I don't really know many people other than like Brian Tyler Cohen who I've never heard critique the Democrats, right? CNN does it, MSNBC does it, NBC does it, CBS does it, right? Most of these left-wing channels do it. The independent progressive media, they do it, right? That's not a point to be made that, oh, we critique the Democrats. Who doesn't critique the Democrats, right? When you want to be dishonest, you pretend like you don't know what you're being accused of. What you're being accused of is overwhelmingly focusing on attacking one side while, cheerleading or whatever it is for the other side, being silent, carrying water for another side. That's what you're being accused of. So CNN will point out the exception to the rule. We critique the Democrats. Blue MAGA will point out the exception to the rule. We've called out Jimmy Dore, right? Right-wing media will point out the exception to the rule. We've criticized Trump, right? And they all will be telling the truth, but yet they're lying. They're lying through the intent The intent is to deceive. They're using the truth to lie to you, right? They're pointing out the fact that they have critiqued their own side to give the illusion that they are actually objective and not exactly what you're accusing them of being, which is propagandists, right? We're not propagandists because there was that one time where we critiqued the other side. And some of them that are really dishonest, hearing my arguments, the response will be, oh, we've critiqued, like if it's Blue MAGA, we've critiqued Jimmy Dore more than once. That would be a lie to say that I've only critiqued him once. There's more than a few times that I've actually went against Jimmy Dore, right? But then if they want to play stupid and we actually examine, like, show us the evidence of you going against Jimmy Dore, right? Right-wing media. Show us the evidence of you going against Trump. Liberal media. Show us the evidence of you going against the Democrats. What you will find is they overrepresent the amount of times that they've gone against their own side. So we won't see a lot of evidence as much as they would make it seem that there is. Also, many of the instances, it'll be hidden, buried at the end of a video. It'll be subtle critique, right? You make a video. So if you're Blue MAGA, you make a video all about the Democrats suck, Biden sucks, and they do suck, right? You're not lying. And somewhere at the end you say, and you know what? And there was this video, and people are complaining on Twitter that Jimmy Dore shouldn't have said blah, blah, blah. And you know what? I can't disagree. I mean, I wouldn't have said what he said, right? You do this walking on eggshells thing, and you put that in your list of, like, this is me going against Jimmy Dore, right? If you're a right-winger, right, you're going to point out Ben Shapiro called out Trump. And you point to his one little video that he did, right, going after Trump to some degree, right? And then when you hear me, and on that note, I gotta go. But basically, you have all these guys, they do the same thing. They're entertainers. And they're in this business of clicks and views. That's how they make their money. And the most profitable way to make money is you find a product, right? And you find a market for that product. Now, there are people who are left-leaning who, rightfully so, can't stand the Democrats and can't stand all the lies and, all the fake, all the BS from the Democrats, right? So if you are trying to run a business, you want to be a YouTube entertainer pretending to be some kind of journalist, then you pretend to be a journalist and you feed this market. And every video is, oh, the Democrats suck, oh, Biden sucks, right? You're quiet about the Republicans, you're quiet about other people, and also you are loyal. You create this clique of loyalty to people who are also targeting the same market, right? So you're not going to go against Jimmy Dore, right? You're not going to go against anyone that is targeting that same market, using that same propaganda technique where rather than just informing people of corruption, right? So when Republicans are corrupt, you talk about it. When Democrats are corrupt, you talk about it. When Republicans lie, you talk about it. When Democrats lie, you talk about it. When right-wingers lie, you talk about it. When left-wingers lie, you talk about it. Like, that's journalism, right? I just want to inform my audience. But if instead your focus is not on informing your audience, your focus is on running an entertainment business, just like CNN and MSNBC, then you do what CNN and MSNBC does, right? You cater to and pander to the ideology of a certain demographic, right? So if you're MSNBC, you're going to talk a lot about racism. You're going to talk a lot about Trump. You're going to talk about how the right is crazy and blah, 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 blah. And you're going to once in a while do the same thing for the Democrats and the so-called left. But overwhelmingly, you're going to focus on giving your audience what they want to hear, which is Trump sucks, the right wing sucks, they're all racist, blah, 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 right? So ironically, you have independent media on the left who will choose the same business model. They just flip it, and then somehow the audience perceives it as something better and something different, but yet it's the same exact thing, right? What is MSNBC doing? Focusing on an enemy, the right, Republicans, and Donald Trump. while being quiet for, carrying water for, right? Being silent about a lot of stuff from the left and from the Democrats. So I shouldn't say from the left because they're definitely not left wing, more from the liberal side, and definitely the Democratic Party. What are these guys in blue MAGA doing? Exact same thing, right? The only thing is that's interesting is that the enemy that they target is the one that's quote unquote on their side. They would argue not on their side because, you know, the ones they're talking about are more centrist liberals, right? But regardless, they're not going after right wingers, right? You got the left and you got the right, and it's a spectrum, right? You can go center left, center right. You can go just barely right. You can go far right. You can go far left. Right? There's a lot of spectrum. It's a spectrum, right? But they are basically critiquing the left from the left. Now, admittedly, again, it's a spectrum. So the part of the left that they critique is the part that the far left would call they're not actually the left, but they are the left. They're just moderately so, right? You're center left, but center left is still left, right? If you really want to play, no good Scotsman, then you say that they're centrists, if that makes you feel better, right? But since I'm not into playing games, I just call it like it is. They are critiquing the left. I don't need to get into the specific part of the left because I'm not in a tribe, so I'm not worried about, I don't want to say anything negative about my side, right? So I need a way to make sure they're not the real left, right? Just like how the right wingers will do the rhino thing. The minute that someone, critiques the Republican Party or something, or says something bad about Trump, they're a rhino. You're not a real Republican, right? I'm telling you, in America, our politics is just a joke, right? The left and the right in this country are basically a joke. Now I lean left, so I think the left is much less of a joke than the right is in my personal opinion, right? Don't get mad at me because I have a preference, right? Many people who watch me prefer the right. They would say the exact same thing, and I'm okay with that. I disagree with them, but I'm okay with that. If you have a preference for the right, you feel the right is better and the left is more crazy, sure, right? I would argue that my content should have led you to a direction where you wouldn't think that way, but if that is your conclusion, so be it. My conclusion is I feel that the left is more. I have a preference for the left, but regardless, it's the same business model. So the enemy I'm going to focus on overwhelmingly is the Democrats, right? Are the liberals, and then who I'm going to carry water for or be silent about is going to be the right. I'm not going to, Republicans can be doing some crazy stuff that's really putting our country at risk. Doing things that are taking our rights away, doing things that are sort of antagonistic to things that I claim to care about, and I won't have anything to say about it, right? But if the Democrats remotely do anything like that, oh my goodness, right? This is exactly what CNN does in reverse, right? And a lot of people fall for this, right? The trick is, let me tell you how the scam works. This is the trick, right? If I want to be some YouTube entertainer pretending to be some kind of journalist, right? I pick a bad guy, right? A side that I want to go against, and look at things that they're not talking about. And then I do videos about those things that they're not talking about and pretend as if I'm a real journalist and they don't want to talk about this stuff. Look at this stuff that's going on and not one video about it because they are this, that. They're drifters or whatever the thing is, right? I'm telling you all the stuff they don't want to say, what they're not covering. But wait a minute. By you focusing mainly on the stuff that they're not talking about, you're basically creating another version of them, right? Because they're talking about stuff that you're not talking about. right? If they're talking about one thing and you're talking about something else, and yet reality is both of those things, right? In reality, we have a duopoly. We have a corrupt Republican Party and a corrupt Democratic Party. So if you're being honest and you're talking about reality, you're going to be equally talking about both of these, right? Two to tango, right? But if you're doing propaganda, if you're an entertainer pretending to be a journalist, then you're only going to be focusing majority of your time on either the Democrats as the bad guys or the Republicans as the bad guys, because that's the most profitable. You know, from an entertainment perspective, it's good to have a clear, defined, good guy, bad guy, right? That's how it is in a movie, in a story. It's not good. It's not profitable to have something where it's kind of the lines are blurred. You want to be very clearly show the Democrats are evil, right? The Republicans, well, they're not perfect, but the Democrats are evil, right? So anybody listening, it's very clear the Democrats, they're the real problem, right? And they will say, well, I didn't say that there aren't problems with the Republicans, but the Democrats, right? If you want to choose another audience to pander to, then the Republicans are evil, right? Hey, the Democrats aren't perfect, but the Republicans, they're evil, right? All your content is Republican this, Republican that. Look what the Republicans are doing. Look what the right wingers are doing. And you're silent, for the most part, about the other side, right? That's the propaganda model. That's what CNN does. That's what MSNBC does. That's what Jimmy Dore does. That's what Majority Report does. That's what TYT does, although less so now. I've noticed a change in the last 6 months. They're trying to be better, I guess. There's still a lot of problems with TYT for sure, but I'm not gonna deny that they seem to be better now than they were 6 months ago. Now, if you're Blue MAGA, you never admit that, right? Because again, you have a narrative you're trying to push, and TYT, they're part of the axis of evil, right? They're part of the axis of evil. So there's nothing that they could do that will ever be right. It's all negative. It's all they suck. And then again, the dishonesty. If you hear my argument right now, you're gonna say, no, that's not true. I've agreed with stuff that TYT has said. Right. Anyway, basically, Majority Report exposed that overwhelmingly you have this squad of people in the Jimmy Dore world who they have this business relationship, informal business relationship, we would think, unless we want to get into conspiracies, where they all boost each other. They're all echoing the same talking points, right? And the basic thing is the Democrats are evil, right? Which ironically is the same business model that right-wing media does. The only difference is they're doing it from a left perspective, and they are far more honest about it in terms of, well, not in terms of their critiques. You're gonna get far more honest critiques of the left from the Jimmy Dore world. Jimmy Dore is, in my view, one of the best at calling out the Democrats in their lies and stuff like that. So that's how you can get caught up in his dishonest propaganda media, right? Because you get caught up in your hate for the Democrats, and then he does these really good critiques, and you're like, yeah, tell him, soldier boy, tell him, yeah, Biden this, whatever. And then you get caught up in that, and your emotions, yeah, AOC, right? And then you don't even realize that all he's doing is what CNN does in reverse. He is CNN on steroids, right? CNN on steroids, pushing a certain narrative, talking about certain issues, over reporting on certain issues, under reporting on others that go against his narrative. Generally, you're not going to see him having people on his show that are, strongly against him. He just has signal boosters, generally, right? People who go on his show are people who are just amplifying the same talking points in the same this bubble, right? Which ironically, Majority Report is in another bubble. They try to act like they're not, but they're in another bubble. They're not as much in a bubble as my good friends, the Vanguard, pointed out. I think they made it look like they don't really go against. They only have people that amplify their. I'm sorry. Majority Report compared to Jimmy Dore, Majority Report has far more been open to talking to people who directly oppose them. In fact, Sam Cedar has this open policy where he'll debate anybody. That's what he says. And from what I'm seeing, that's what he does. He's debated some people who have been adamantly against him, and this is not a strange thing. This is a thing that he does. If you're just focused on hating them, then you're not going to notice stuff like that. I don't like them. They, you know, there's some good stuff there. They have made good points. It's not, I would not say that they have no value at all. But generally speaking, it's to me, it's another propaganda channel. I think the fake progressive label is fair, in my opinion. But fact of the matter is, I've seen them being far more willing to go, you know, to challenge the opposition. They've been trying to debate clowns like Stephen Crowder, who keeps ducking and running away from it. They've been trying to debate Tim Pool, who, you know, he's got his excuses. Oh, I'm gonna blacklist him. He's not serious. Blah blah blah. Right. Um, so they definitely have the appetite for it, and via the call-in model, you know, they've had some people on there that really go against them. I don't see that level of openness to opposition on the Jimmy Dore show, right? If I'm watching Jimmy Dore, all I'm watching is this COVID nonsense and, oh, the Democrats suck and whatnot. And those who have opposed him get destroyed, right? They, you know, friendships are ended, partnerships are ended. If you're a commentator, this sort of clique comes after you. You're not allowed to critique Jimmy Dore substantially. If you do, you're out. You're a shit lib, right? Just like, again, the rhino. You say one thing bad about Trump, you're a rhino. Say one thing bad about Jimmy Dore, you are a shit lib. It's the same bullshit, right? That's why we need to stop focusing on people's politics and, you know, look at the left. The left sucks or the right sucks. These are American problems. If there's a problem with American culture. There's a problem with the way people think in this country. We're far too emotional, right? Left wing, right wing, two sides of the same coin, right? Now, going with that analogy of the coin may have a face on one side and an eagle on the other, right? So it's not like it's a coin that has two, you know, the face and a face, the same face on both sides, right? So I would never try to say the left and the right are exactly the same, right? But ultimately, you're dealing with a quarter. It's 25 cents. Whether it's front or the back, whether it's the face or the eagle, it is a quarter, right? Two sides, same coin. Left and the right, right? They all like their tribalism. They all like to be in their little bubbles. And rather than actually do something, of course, not everyone's like that, right? But a lot of them, you know, rather than actually take action about things, you know, they like to watch people going after their perceived enemies, and they all feel like they're doing something. Yeah, they're lying. This is a fraudulent this, and there's a grifter. And all they doing is writing comments and putting stuff on Twitter. And again, this is one of the reasons why, you know, I have more respect, even though there's a lot of dishonesty and they're doing the same propaganda, you know, and it's one-sided stuff. The left-wing commentators, I have a lot more respect for them, because I want to say left, I shouldn't say left wing, the Blue MAGA squad, they are more willing to actually take action, do direct action, to actually do something to, you know, improve the things they talk about, right? But the I think the least engaged people in terms of in the real world, I think, are the fake progressive squad, right? I don't see them doing anything about anything hardly ever. It's all just commentary. It's all just content. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Notes for you, things to observe. This is the reaction that you can expect from Blue MAGA. People in the Jimmy Dore world. Got a couple ways. Like, this is a devastating takedown of this little echo chamber. So you're either going to want to run away from it. So pretend like you didn't see it. Don't do any content. Don't talk about it, right? Just ignore it. That's one approach. So look and see which commentators who seem to be pro Jimmy Dore, which ones don't make any videos. Another trick you can use is deflect. You listen to what Majority Report says and you find something that you can latch onto and focus your audience's attention on. A good one would be forced to vote. Majority Report was wrong on forced to vote in my view. So a nice scam would be to ignore a lot of the good critiques that he made about this Jimmy Dore world and focus on forced to vote. Oh, forced to vote and champ seated this and forced to vote, blah, 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 blah. You might lightly say stuff about the other stuff, but overwhelmingly, you're going to present to your audience a narrative of, he's still talking about forced to vote. And valid. Like the fact that he hasn't let this go, right? That was a bad take in my view, and he's still holding on to it. But the fact that you will hide from the critiques of what you guys are doing, which is like CNN, right? But worse, is interesting. Because that says to me that you are knowingly deceiving your audience, right? Because for you to not even talk about the other stuff, like we know you saw it, so you intentionally like, oh, this is bad. So, and it's probably going to be people talking about it. So I need to get my audience distracted. So let's talk about the forced to vote stuff, right? The other technique is to just lean in, man. Take a Trump approach and character assassination of Majority Report, right? Which they have done a lot of stuff to deserve that. So focus on that. And just a lot of dishonest, bad faith arguments. You're definitely that person is definitely gonna want to talk about the force to vote stuff as well. But if you really want to be dishonest and you really want, you want to be sort of a try hard in terms of trying to make your audience not see the truth about what Majority Report said, then you're gonna do a dance, man. Right? You're going to try to justify your biased nature. You're going to say stuff like, let me see. So he says, they won't talk about Jimmy Dore. You're going to say, well, no, I've said bad things about Jimmy Dore. I don't agree with everything Jimmy Dore said, right? That elementary stuff. Like that's not, again, they're not bringing anything new. It's not very super creative. That's the obvious deflection technique. I've said bad things about Jimmy Dore, right? And then you flip it and you say, well, how come you didn't have anything to say about when Biden did this and then and you didn't say anything because you're caping for the Democratic Party, right? So if Majority Report is caping for the Democratic Party, which I probably agree with you on that, what does that have to do with the fact about who you're caping for? Right? If someone accuses you of doing something, your rebuttal should be a response to what they're talking about. They're talking about what you talk about, what you don't talk about. Talk about that. Don't talk about what they're doing. But look at what they're doing. No. But look at that. So that's what I think will be. So actually, I think different versions of that will be the approach that this kind of content creator would take. Different things about issues with Majority Report. Majority Report said some critique about them, but Majority Report did this thing. Who are they to say anything when they're doing this thing? And there's another critique about the Jimmy Dore squad. Yeah, but look at what they did when blah, 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 right? So look for these types of tricks and realize if they honestly believed in their position, they would be defending their position, not deflecting and talking about what Majority Report is doing. Yes, Majority Report, there's a lot of issues with their content, with their approach. I would agree with you on that, but we're not talking about Majority Report. Majority Report did a video about people who are in this Jimmy Dore circle, right? So you need to address his comments about the people in the Jimmy Dore circle and the behavior that he is observing, right? If you don't think that they're one-sided, then you say that. You agree that they're one-sided, you say that, but you've got to comment on what he's saying, right? Your response shouldn't be anything about the majority report, because majority report didn't make a video talking about themselves, right? The video wasn't about, hey, we at the majority report, we do X, Y, and Z, right? The video was about this other group. So your comment should be about the other group, addressing the specific critiques that are being made. Unless, of course, you're a dishonest actor, you're a bad faith actor, and you know that you're being dishonest, and you know that what the majority report said is correct, and your focus is on shielding your audience from the truth, then your response is going to be all deflection, all force to vote stuff. Oh, but they do it too, or look what they're doing, right? An honest actor, a good faith actor, if they respond to this and they're in the Jimmy Dore world, their response is going to be strictly a response to what's being said. They say that we and you make a good faith effort. Like if they say you're mostly talking about the Democrats, you can't go through your archives and show a couple videos where you talk about Republicans and say, no, that's not true. But that's what they do. That's how they operate. That's what CNN does. That's what MSC does. That's what Jimmy Dore does. That's what TYT does, right? That's what I would expect from Majority Report. That's what I would expect from somebody like Brian Tyler Cohen, who's one of the most partisan ones out there. These guys are all entertainers, all pointing out their competition, how much problems there are. And the reality is they're doing the same thing that the competition is doing. All they do is they flip it, right? They flip who the bad guy is and who the good guy is, but the same 98% going after one side, 2% on the other side, and then pretending as if it's anywhere near 50-50, right? And then if you really press them hard, they'll say, listen, I don't talk about the Republicans because if you want to hear bad stuff about Republicans, there's lots of stuff you could watch. You can watch MSNBC, CNN, but wait a minute. Didn't you say those guys are trash? Why are you directing me to trash networks to learn about the Republicans? If you're the honest journalist and I like your content, I'm here watching what you're saying, why don't you simply do your job and be a journalist and report on corruption wherever it comes from, right? Instead of being a dishonest actor and telling me, oh, I should watch CNN, or all these people that you critique all the time, right? And valid critiques, all they do is talk about the Republicans, right? But why would you use that as a deflection? Oh, go watch them. If you want to hear about Republicans, go watch them. And I think one of the worst parts is for someone to be talking about the duopoly. Do means two, right? In Italiano, uno, due, right? Due, two. For someone who talks about the duopoly to only talk about the unopoly, you're only talking about, if you're only talking about the Democrats 98% of the time, then you have no business talking about the duopoly, because duopoly is two. How are you going to be against the duopoly and you don't talk about the duopoly? Because the Democrats are not the duopoly. The duopoly is Democrats and Republicans. You can't be, oh, I'm against duopoly, but then you only talk about one side. That means you're not against the duopoly. You're just an entertainer. You're just here for clicks, for views, for fame. You're running a business. Just like CNN, just like MSNBC, right? It's all about the revenue, the profits, right? It's all about your business surviving and striving. It's not about being honest with your audience. It's not about informing them. It's not about caring about anything you talk about. It's all just content. It's all just entertainment. And it's all very toxic and dangerous and damaging to this country to keep people in these echo chambers, all the while pointing out other echo chambers. It's confusing for normies that don't get all of this stuff. They will latch on to somebody's commentators because they said something they agree with, and then they start listening to them, and then you start shaping their worldview from a very partisan, one-sided lens. So you have a lot of people that are just being misinformed and misled, all for profit. It's disgusting, it's sick, it's sad, and it's hurting the country. This is Debate Me Channel. Debate Me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.